mode.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us today for our webinar on making the move to Media Composer 2020. My name is Larry Compton. I am joined today by Charles Garino, our VP of Sales. I am the Senior Instructor and Technology Evangelist, and our session today is about Media Composer 2020. And we've had a lot going on with Media Composer over the last 18 months, so a lot of stuff to cover. Throughout the webinar, we ask that if you have questions, go ahead and open up that questions panel now, and that way you can submit the questions as they come to you throughout the webinar. We'll try and make some time at the end of the webinar to take those questions and address those. Charles will be helping me look out for those with that. I am going to go ahead and talk a little bit about why we're here. Avid's development over the last 18 months has been hot and heavy. You may recall back in June of 2019, they released the 2019 version of Media Composer with an all-new interface. However, I say all new, and a lot of others are saying the same thing, but it's not really all new. In fact, it's very, very familiar. It's very much the same as other NLEs out on the market, and even the prior Avid versions. Lots of efficiency improvements that I'm excited to show you some of those here. But Avid, as you know, has been supporting 3 major long-term release branches now for those 18 months, and they have been pushing out releases almost every month with new features for each of those 3 versions, the 2018 branch, 2019 branch, and 2020 branch. On the screen, you can see the long-term release schedule and support schedule for Media Composer branches. The 2018 branch will reach end of development this month, meaning no more releases on the 2018 branch. It will still be under support through the end of 2021. However, no new releases or bug fixes as of the end of this month for that 2018 branch. So 2019, I mentioned, came out in June of last year, and that would make this month roughly 18 months of that branch being out in the wild. Avid is moving to an 18-month long-term release branch schedule. So in June of next year, they will end development on the 2019 branch. That'll be 2 years that 2019 has been out in the marketplace, and they will end support for that in December of 22. 2020 has been out since 2020.4 back in April, introduced some major changes to behind the scenes in regards to capabilities, functionality, and efficiencies for everyone that uses Media Composer. So I'm excited to show you some of those here today. Before we get too far, though, I know the first questions are going to be dTective support. And dTective effects and Clear ID effects all work flawlessly inside of all 3 of the major long-term branches. So there's really no compatibility issues there with any of our filters. The only issue at the moment is Archiver. Archiver version 1.13, which is currently out in dTective 8.1, is not compatible with Media Composer 2019 or 2020. However, we have been working hard and heavy on that as well as other products, and have some exciting new features that will be introduced in the next version of Archiver in the first quarter of 2021, including much faster media scanning, support for the all-new settings files that Avid is using with XML settings files and things of that nature. They have some new default media locations if you're a first-time installer. So all of those things were accommodated in the upcoming Archiver release. We also made a major update to the drag and drop archiving ability, which is just such a huge improvement for me personally, because now I can take my case folder just like before and drag it, drop it in. But you may recall in prior versions of Archiver with the drag and drop of miscellaneous files, When you restored to any other drive than the original drive, it couldn't maintain that folder structure and would restore those miscellaneous files to a flat folder. That's all changed and been improved speed-wise and performance-wise, a huge improvement. Another key thing that's coming in that Archiver release in the first quarter of 2021 is our new player previewer inside of Archiver. So when you're reviewing your projects, your private, shared, projects within Archiver, or managing your media, maybe you're just cleaning up your system. Archiver will allow you to double click on a file to preview that video. MXF files, OMF files, OP-Atom files, all of that. Most of those files will all open right inside of Archiver, so you can see what media you're dealing with if you can't tell by name. Another neat feature that we're excited to include in Archiver, and some more. So stay tuned for that. Archiver coming. Archiver 2.0 will be released in the first quarter of 2021. But again, all other dTective effects and filters work perfectly inside 2019 and 2020. We've been using them for 18 months now in those platforms without issue. Media Composer hardware requirements, like most other applications out there, multimedia applications anyways, hardware requirements frequently change. And it's something that, as you know, Avid has been very adamant about ensuring system hardware is compatible and capable of performing according to user expectations. So they do extensive testing and vetting on hardware configurations and systems, and of course always recommend using an Avid qualified system. There's very good reason for that. Certainly you can run Media Composer on any old laptop, just like you can run most other applications, with some minor changes, such as the minimum specs requirement changes you see here on screen. So minimum memory, if you're using one of your own personal systems that you put together or acquired elsewhere, not one of our Avid qualified systems, that minimum memory spec has been increased to 16 gigs now, with a recommended 32, and 64 for UHD and high definition projects. Avid has a very detailed list of recommendations in regards to that in their knowledge base. Windows 10 64-bit only as of 2020.9, the September release of Media Composer, which was a big release, introduced MP4 exporting using the new Universal Media Engine, which is so much faster and incredibly convenient. Had a case the other day someone asked for me to look at, and essentially was able to bring the file into the Media Composer with a simple drag and drop, and zoom in 400% and show the perpetrator. Within 2 minutes, I had exported out the MP4, zoomed in at 400%, and they had that file. So a lot different than the old days of where you're forced to import. You have a lot more options. However, it really doesn't have to be that difficult, as you'll see here. NVIDIA GPU driver support, the latest for 2024 for 2.5. And when we talk about hardware, of course, that's our specialty. We were the first, correct me if I'm wrong, Charles, but I think we were the very first PC integrator, Windows PC for Avid Media Composer software. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, so we have
many moon ago.
Yes, we have been doing this for a long time. Our company, Avid, we've been working with them closely, and our systems are built from the ground up to your specifications and needs, providing they meet Avid specifications. All of our systems go up to Avid and get tested out through their very detailed process of hardware testing to confirm that they meet Avid's qualifications. So base model system specs, as you can see on screen here, 20-core Intel Xeon CPUs, M2 system boot drives, which if you're not leveraging M2, oh my gosh, the speed increase is just phenomenal. So booting from M2, super fast. PCI Gen 3 still, however, 16 slots, or 3 8 slots, 4 16 slots, excuse me. So very, very expandable. Our default rig, all of our rigs, our workstations are, UHD 4K qualified with NVIDIA graphics. Base model starts with the P2000. There's certainly many ways to go up from there in regards to graphics cards, even multiple graphics cards, configurations, things of that nature. 64 gig is our default RAM. That's DDR4. Plenty of room for expandability in the chassis, 16 terabytes, so on and so forth, including write blockers and things of that nature that can be optionally included into our workstations. So long history of developing specific hardware solutions for our government customers in some of the most demanding environments. When it comes to mobile, you may recall we have expertise there as well, back with the luggable systems and our various mobile platforms. We have pretty much standardized on the laptop front on HP products for many years for good reason. HP's Z workstations are amazing and can provide desktop performance in a mobile unit. In fact, I'm doing this webinar from an HP laptop that is one of my primary workhorses, and I absolutely love it. I love the docking station, the ability to use multiple monitors. I have a typical 3-monitor setup at my workstations, and so definitely something to consider if you're looking for mobile, these HP Z workstations, which come with our field kit as well. So lots of options there. Now, when it comes to I/O hardware, a lot has changed as well. In fact, a lot of people are trying to dust off old I/O hardware for their applications and leverage it with these much more newer and modern NLEs. But I've got to tell you, Avid has made leaps and bounds. If you have one of our systems, you may have an old Nitrous box. We'll mention that, Nitrous DX. Still supported, but the older versions of Avid hardware, not so much. So DNX IQ and the Artist IO family, absolutely incredible devices. The one on the screen right here is the Artist DNX ID. This is their mobile portable solution that also is very capable for a lab environment. Thunderbolt 3 connectivity, completely uncompressed up to UHD. Thunderbolt connectivity, and you can see the device manufactured by Blackmagic. So some of you may have systems with the Blackmagic Intensity Pro 4K we used for capture cards. So Blackmagic been around and setting the standard on that hardware for quite some time. But be conscious of the I/O options if you're leveraging I/O. The other thing about, let me just go back for a second, about the Artist I/O family is hardware acceleration. So even if you're not leveraging the I/O for input and output, for capturing maybe analog source media or what have you, the Artist I/O family hardware accelerates H.264, and particularly high def H.264, so you get there faster from both playback and encoding. There's much more than just a capture device here. Whereas the Intensity Pro 4K card that a lot of our customers have been leveraging, that PCI card does not do hardware acceleration. It's just a capture card. So another thing to consider when considering I/O and the Artist family. Very, very efficient in products for I/O as well as that hardware acceleration. Storage is important. As we all know, hardware, extremely important, and Avid goes to extreme lengths to test it. But you know what? Avid and Adobe have been doing it together for some time. In fact, from the inception of the Nexus family, Avid and Adobe began partnering and working together on integrating their products and solutions. So a lot has been happening on that front as well, not just pertaining to the Nexus family, which if you're not familiar with Nexus Storage, we have a very large state lab that leverages multiple Nexus systems. They continue to expand and add on to that storage. Very high speed, on demand, manageable through a web browser, one of the easiest storage systems to manage. So from a shared storage environment, nobody does it better. And that's why Adobe is working with Avid, and why Avid's working with Adobe on not just the storage, but also on product integration. Maybe you've heard of Media Central, the new browser-based production editor for Avid Media Composer. It's leveraging Nexus storage in the backend as well. So definitely something to keep an eye on as Avid and Adobe continue to expand on that partnership. Media Composer 2020 specifically changed some major things under the hood. Now, 2019 looked a lot like 2020, almost identical, but 2020 introduced the new Universal Media Engine capabilities, much more, I should say, actually introduced in 2019, but the Universal Media Engine, as far as linking goes and importing and exporting, 2020.4 is a game changer. The performance improvements as far as importing and exporting. Like I said, I did a file just the other day on a case where I was had the file back out to MP4 literally within 5 minutes of getting the file, bringing it into an Avid project, making zoom and minor adjustments, and then exporting back out to MP4. So the speed increases alone can justify some hardware upgrades and things of that nature. Yeah, I always say, consider your workstation an employee, right? And so those efficiencies, if I can save hours on importing, exporting, transcoding, definitely worth it. This new Universal Media Engine is 64-bit. The old QuickTime libraries were 32-bit. And I don't know if QuickTime on Windows is limited, certainly deprecated, no longer supported for quite some time, because other platforms had the ability that QuickTime once was alone in providing H.264 and things of that. FFmpeg comes along, etc. But this new Universal Media Engine is fast, and it has made such a difference in my processing time-wise. Not to mention all of the other improvements in regards to, dealing with higher than 4K raster sizes, 8K and 16K, frame rate and raster changes when you import or link. Variable frame rate support was introduced in 2020.9, so we can leverage variable frame rate in the same timeline with our other files. Actually, variable frame rate was 2020.6. MP4 export was 2020.9. So directly exporting right to MP4 now, a huge improvement for my workflows. H.265 and AAC support also coming with the December release in 2020.12, which should be out any day now, sometime soon. We've been toying with the betas, so really excited about that as well, having the ability to encode as well as decode those, and having the hardware acceleration from the I/O. But the big thing I want to mention here for those just considering the migration to 2020 is the lack of QuickTime libraries. As of 2020.4, Media Composer no longer installs the Apple QuickTime libraries, nor the QuickTime AMA plugins. So what that means to you, if you've used AMA, the QuickTime AMA plugin in past projects, the new Avid link through Universal Media Engine will not automatically read those files. So you'll open up your project if you are on a system, for instance, where you install Media Composer 2020 on a brand new system, and then you go to open up a project with QuickTime AMA linked media. It's going to come up media offline, and you're going to have to relink to those files with the new plugin, simply going through and manually relinking them. However, if you already have QuickTime installed, if you had a prior version of Avid Media Composer with the QuickTime plugin, it remains. It doesn't get uninstalled. So you'll have that going forward on the systems that you're using today that have QuickTime installed and have the QuickTime plugin. You'll still have those options, including QuickTime Reference, which has been removed from 2020 because of this. So lots of changes in that regard. Just be conscious of that QuickTime, lack of QuickTime AMA plugin when going back to prior projects and things of that nature, something we wanted to bring to your attention. A few other tips and notes in regards to migrating, and that is it is recommended to finish your projects before you make this change because it is a new major version, not a minor release. So what we've found in our testing is we've had zero issues, no issues whatsoever with opening projects from prior versions. It's just a better safe than sorry type of recommendation. So if you have the ability to do that, great. Better safe than sorry. If not, consider doing one workstation at a time if you have multiple workstations and staging your migration. Another warning is user and site settings won't migrate across the major versions. However, again, in my experience, I haven't had any issue with this. It's recommended that you create a new user profile. I did do that. I just created a new user profile, but I didn't have to on my other system. Didn't have any issues. I just had to go back through and reset up my preferences to that user profile. If you're using that old hardware, that old Nitrous DX hardware, the drivers haven't been installed by default for quite some time. I think it was version 8.9 where they removed the install of those drivers, but they still provide the installer. So if you're still leveraging that antiquated Nitrous DX hardware as your I/O, the driver is there on your system under Program Files, Avid Utilities, DX drivers if you run into any issues and need to reinstall that. Licensing. So when we get to licensing, you may be familiar with, of course, Avid's Application Manager and Avid Link. Avid Link has been, although I was a little apprehensive when Application Manager changed over to Link, I'm a big fan of Avid Link now. I'm able to do all of my updates right through the Avid Link application, which I'm going to show you here in just a second. But for this major update, do not use Avid Link to install 2020 if you're coming from 2018 or even 2019. It's recommended that you do a complete uninstall of Media Composer using the Windows Add Remove programs. And then when you go to install 2020, that you do it as administrator, run the installer as administrator, complete the installation of Media Composer, and then reboot your system. So those are the key tips in regards to migrating from one major version to another. But going forward, you'll always have Avid Link to leverage those installers and updates and things of that nature for you, as I'm getting ready to show you. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Let me try and do a little escape here, and I'm going to go ahead and turn off my webcam and free up some space here. Let me exit out of this and we'll bring up Avid Link. So Avid Link, running in my taskbar down at the bottom here, I just right click and go show or double click on it, is their new application manager. If you haven't been in it, like I said, I wasn't a fan at first, but I'm a huge fan now. I can get into my product listing, see updates, for instance, Media Composer. I have the 2020.9 release installed. 2020.10 came out, but I haven't installed it on this particular system. And to do so is as simple as clicking Update. Same with Avid Link itself. You can see I have an update available for Avid Link. I simply click Update to install those. I won't do that live, but very simple and easy to install and activate all of your Avid software using the new Avid link. So once you get in to Avid link and log into your account, you can access all of that information. What about the interface? Well, the interface has changed a lot, but if you spend a few minutes in an interface from talking with other users, it only takes a few minutes, especially for those familiar with not just Avid, but any NLE. Avid's gone to great lengths to make it a very familiar looking interface, but there are some key notable things that I picked up along the way that I'm going to be sharing with you. First and foremost, the new look, the new project window. So with 2020, all new project window, we have our projects, create new projects, the ability to create our user profiles and manage multiple user profiles. And rather than having radio buttons for our private, public, and shared or external projects, we now simply have a drop down for the three, and we can navigate to whichever folder or browser where we store our projects. You can see I'm on an external drive of Avid projects here, and then I have my public, which is my shared Avid projects, and then my personal private projects, Larry's. So there's my personal private projects. So very much like the old method, and we can do other things, however, though, including much like in a bin, we can move columns around, we can change columns, choose which columns we want shown here, resize, look at it in thumbnail view, so on and so forth. So a lot of neat little features there. But one of the things I like most about this new project window is the What's New tab. So if you haven't seen this, the What's New tab, pretty slick, gives you an overview of all of the changes in every release of Media Composer that's published. So for instance, in 2020.9, bin and find and replace, darker interface settings, bulk edit, and things of that nature. So you get to see all of the updates in detail, and then you can click on, of course, them for more detailed information pertaining to any of that information. So really helpful for me to see, the latest and greatest right within the interface. So let's take a look at creating a new project. Very similar to the old method. New project, which user, which location I'm going to. So again, my three drop downs and the ability to browse. Give the project a name, something like test project, right? And then choose our format. Of course, Avid still has the custom project settings. So you can go in and create your own custom project and manage your presets down here. So I can add a new preset. You can see I've got one for 640 by 480 at 30 frames per second at 29.97, and I can keep adding presets and or deleting them till I'm blue in the face. But a nice handy feature for that. But I can jump right to all industry standard projects. So in this case, I'm just going to go to a 1080p 29.97. And then I'm going to come in and do a create. So same process for creating a project. One of the challenges for the interface that threw me for a loop was in this new layout. By default, there's a few things to understand. We have what's called docked panels, and then we have floating panels. So if you're a big fan of floating panels, they still exist. You can still float any panel, put them off on multiple displays, etc. And I'm going to show that here momentarily. But we also have the tabs and maybe most noticeably, no project window. Our project window is gone, and so those things have been moved around. What you see on a default layout when opening is the bin container, your composer panel, and your timeline panel. So for project settings and preferences, you can get to it a few different ways. File, settings. We'll bring up our project settings, including, you'll see a tabbed interface, so the format, which used to be in the project window, and we can change format, so on and so forth. Our project settings that are specific to the project, specific to the user and specific to the site. So things like media cache, where I can adjust my video memory and how much memory I'm allowing the application to use, flush frame cache and things of that nature. And then user settings, where I can get into bin views, save my bin views, my export preferences, do keyboard layouts, all like we could always do with Avid. Extremely, extremely customizable, even more so in this new release. So all of our settings still quickly available. So file settings will get you there, as will edit preferences. Going edit preferences will also get you to the same panel, which gives you format, project, user, and site. For system information, you might recall the usage information and hardware information that was in the project panel. That is now under Help About Media Composer. So you'll find that Help About Media Composer, including your version and what options you have activated, your configuration tab, which shows your current software configuration, plugin versions, etc. Your usage tab, so time in project, elapsed time, time in interface, and then our hardware tab in regards to system hardware, Nexus drives, local drive storage, etc. So all of that moved now to the Help About Media Composer, and all of the other information pretty much moved to the Preferences tab. So this bin container window, very much like what you may recall. I'm going to close out of this project to open another one and show you something with multiple bins. Let's grab a project where I have some video in here. So I'm going to grab, let's see, here. I've got this project that was just a simple bunch of media files thrown in for an example, and you can see all of them are linked. And so I'm looking at a linked file here. We have all kinds of capabilities now. Here's my center duration, which gives me the duration to the end. So as I move my playhead, I now know how far till the end of the file, where I'm at in the file. The ability, of course, to get to our composer monitor settings and adjust. For instance, if I'm in a mobile view, I like to keep it down to one row of buttons. But if I'm on my desktop, I like to use 2 rows of buttons beneath the composer. I can turn off all buttons beneath the composer, so on and so forth, as well as types of data up at top. So I can have 2 rows of data or 1 row of data, turn that center duration on, off, etc. Lots and lots of customizable ways to make the interface as simple or as fluid as you'd like based on your preferences. You can make 2020 work for you far better than you could actually any of the older versions. That's kind of the beauty is that once you make the leap, you'll grow to love it pretty quickly. It's like the editors, forensic folks, people that are into multimedia don't like a lot of changes in their interface. And frankly, there really isn't a lot in this interface. It's more superficial than anything. It's much more flexible, much more easy to customize to your liking. The bin window, this bin container, you can see in my default settings. And let me get this little thing out of my way here. I want to minimize that, sorry. So the bin window, I can still save bin views, create my own bin view. I can float the bin window. I can do all kinds of things. So if I select a particular window and then just go Windows, float all panels, float active panel. So if I select this panel, and then go float all panels, it now gives me movable panels for those dockable windows. And then I can add tabs, remove tabs from panels, and place things where I want. So tabs is a new concept with 2019 and 2020 that took me a minute or two to get the hang of, but the gist is moving tabs is quite easy. Hold the Alt key. If you want to move a tab to a new window, let's say I want to put bins here in this window, I just left click and drag and it goes to that window. I can release and it docks back to that panel. If I want to create a new bin, and let's give it a name, and then open that bin in the window, you're going to see that it's going to open in a tabbed interface designed. And why am I not there? I went and opened it into a different window. So if you get anything messed up, the beauty is you could also just restore your workspace, save your workspaces, etc. I'm just going to the edit workspace and clicking restore, and everything goes back, and there's my tabbed view of my bins. So I can have multiple bins open in tabs. I can open them in floating windows. You can see I'm on one panel display. When we have multiple displays connected, which is my typical environment, Media Composer is only going to open to use 2 panels by default, where in older versions, if you had 3 panels, it would try to leverage them. But 2020 is only going to use 2 panels by default. But if you come down to your host panels, and under the Windows host panels, you can activate the third, second, or third displays if they're connected to your systems here, and then move windows to those displays, drag your interface around, so on and so forth. And as I was mentioning, you can also minimize or just change between workspaces using the convenient shortcuts over on the right-hand side of the interface. So we have our default edit workspace, our color workspace, our effects workspace. So you can see I now have my effects palette, audio, where we've got metering and things shown. And then if I build and add panels and windows, I can simply save my own and add it and call it something like, did I do save current or new workspace, Larry's laptop, and now that's going to be in my shortcut as well as a workspace. So I can flip right back and forth between these workspaces as needed, which has been really, really great. If I don't like this panel over here, I can also minimize that and just hide the workspace toolbar and get back to it with the little flyout menu. Bin views haven't changed. Again, you can save bin views. I'm going to open this up so you can see some of the columns that I use in my bin views. And you can see I'm under Larry's bin view. So this did migrate from my previous version without issue, this particular bin view. We can save those. Another change is the smart editing tools. So in the timeline, you might recall smart editing was controls were down in the timeline itself. They're now buttons in the timeline. So our trim type and our segment modes, we just can right click and choose or one or both. Same with our overwrite trim and a segment mode for lift overwrite. So we can use smart editing tools in the timeline there. What else? Well, Avid Titler. There's been actually quite a few things. Let me pop over to another project where I have one of our new effects, Matrix, that's coming out in the next dTective release. So I'm going to show you using this project real quick, our new Matrix effect, as well as the new Avid Titler. So if you haven't heard, Avid Titler is also changed. Now the classic title tool is still available to you. You can still get to the classic title tool via the tools menu. So title tool application is the old classic application, but be aware the reason it was changed, the title tool application, you may recall, creates actual media, number one. Number two, it was only, did not support larger than HD raster sizes. So that was the two main things that Avid was going after by replacing the title tool. And you know, they've shipped other titlers with the product in the past, but I got to tell you, I've grown to love the new Avid title tool. You have to think of it as an effect, though, rather than a piece of media, because that's essentially what you have. The new title tool is an effect. You're applying an effect. So let me, I'll just do a new sequence here and drop this piece of media in and grab, maybe I'll create a new track. And I'll just mark an in and out on this track. And so I'm going to turn off my segment tools and maybe come over here and mark an in, and an out, right? And then I'm going to turn these off, and I want a title to go there on this track. So I can launch the Avid titler and leverage the Avid titler just like, excuse me, turn on my preview. Launch the Avid titler, and I have my ability to control fonts, face, bordering, alignment, background, etc. But it's much like working in Photoshop because you have layers now, and you can simply group the layers, so on and so forth. And then you can see, much like in the previous one, it looks like an effect. So if I want to save this, whatever I create in the title tool, I can simply drag it over to my bin and save that. And you can see it's applied to right where I've applied my effect. So the new titler is pretty slick, and it has helped us facilitate a new effect, which is matrix. So our matrix effect coming out in the next dTective release allows us to show multiple videos in one view. So as you can see here, I have 4 tracks of video in my timeline. And with the matrix effect applied, I applied it to this filler track. I added a 5th track. And you can see I've got these all lined up. Things are happening at different times, but I want the videos to appear on screen as they come in. So I've applied a matrix effect and put it into a quad view, and I'll show you the effect settings momentarily. But as you can see, as I move through my timeline, as they pop up, they'll pop up into that quad view, and I can do 6, 8, so on and so forth in the current builds. But it's a nice, quick, easy way to take all of your video and your bigger picture and present them in a multicam type of view. Some people might use that for that, but this is a quick, easy way. And let me show you one of the benefits of this way. So if I come over and I'm going to show my workspace toolbar because I like to go back and forth between this. So I'm now in effects mode. I just switched over to effects mode, and as I did, I went to single composer monitor, and it opened up my effects settings as well as the effect palette over here on the left. And so with matrix, I can tell it how many columns, how many rows, whether it's applied to video or filler. In this case, it's applied to this top filler track. And then I can set margins around the items, spacing. So if I want spacing to be larger or smaller, I can change the background. I can change the interpolation. So I can use bilinear, cubic, or sync for my interpolation. If I want a colored background or a gradient background, add borders, so on and so forth. And I'll be able to save settings and save presets and load presets nice and easily with this new matrix effect. So look for that coming in our next dTective release as well. But it's leveraging largely, we're able to leverage by filling in these spots in the timeline where there isn't video with just a blank black screen, video black. And so that new Avid titler allows us to do a lot of this stuff really quickly and easily. Another thing that was introduced I forgot to mention when we were talking about bins is the new bulk edit. So as you're maybe renaming clips, the new bulk edit feature allows us to get in and just right-click bulk edit. I can rename clips using metadata from other metadata fields or just entering my own text. So I can do modify name. I want to change with maybe I say all bin items or just the selection or all master clips. And so you can see here are the names as they are currently, and then this would show the names after I make my change. I can replace it with whatever text I want to enter, a counter, or column data. So if I use column data, I can go in and say, you know what, add text from this column to the name. Maybe I want to put in the duration into the name, or mark-ins or mark-outs, or any other columns that you have currently showing in your bin view. You can easily add and edit and manage bulk edit all of that stuff right within the interface. So
Can I cut in real quick, Larry? Just wanted to point out one thing about the matrix. I don't know if people had noticed as Larry was kind of highlighting on the different windows, you were getting a little bounding box around them. You can just grab and drag any of those windows into any position inside to rearrange them. Yeah, right. So very, very easy to get them in the order that you want, or if you even just had two videos, you're trying to do a side-by-side comparison. As Larry showed you earlier, the first two settings are columns and rows, so you can just flip it into a 1x2 or a 1x3 and get it in any order that you want, and then drag and rearrange the videos into whatever order you want.
And then, you know, exporting, like I said, with the 2020.9, exporting to MP4 was introduced, and I got to tell you, the UME engine is just amazing. I can't wait till you get to check it out and see how much time can be saved. I showed in one of our video tips, which we're doing a bunch more of, you know, a quick method to link and then transcode, but exporting directly out to MP4 now, or MOV using the Universal Media Engine, is 64-bit, not limited to that single thread, so on and so forth. So our speeds are absolutely amazing. Just blew me away, and I'm sure it will you as well. So be sure to check that out. And I think that was about it as far as in the interface. We still have the hardware video quality menu options down below. One of the new things there you might see is the full quality float. So the timeline used to be a 16-bit max timeline in Media Composer. And if you didn't know, Media Composer now supports 64 tracks of video as well as 64 tracks of audio. Previously was 24 tracks of video. So 64 tracks and full 32-bit float now, meaning that much, much better precision when doing effects processing on high quality media, etc. I'm typically not needing to use it in my environment for my purposes, but really, really cool all that they've done. So, but other than that, really, once you get past the project window and get in the interface and spend a little time in the interface, you know, I mentioned moving tabs. Well, here I have an effect palette tab. If I want to move it to another place, I can move it around to a window location. So as you see this white hover spot, that's a window. But if I want to put it into one of the green bars, so I just dropped it into a new window. If I want to put it into this window, if I just left click and drag, it's going to say, hey, I'm going to put you over here in this window, and boom, now it goes to its own window. If I want to dock it in here, hold the Alt key and drop it in the green tab. And so now it will be in that same window. So holding the Alt key will help you deal with those tabs, drop them into whichever windows or panels you'd like. Saving your workspaces, just like always, a huge, huge time saver, and having them quickly available over on the right-hand side has been a huge time saver for me as well. All right, so that's a quick look at the interface and some of the major changes and things to consider. Some other product updates I mentioned, Archiver and dTective releases coming soon in the first quarter of 2021. Omnivore 3403 was released just around Thanksgiving there, Thanksgiving holiday, and free to everyone in support as of May 1st, 2020. If you're upgrading from 3.1 or older, you're going to have to, the updater will repartition your drive. So you'll want to move all of anything you have stored on your Omnivore drive off. And back up all of that data because it's got to repartition the drive and resize it. But Omnivore has proven to be very, very popular with a lot of folks. Of course, award-winning screen capture, and we've made some updates to that process, including notifications when it can't capture and why, improvements in efficiency, and of course FFmpeg convert, which has been hugely popular for interrogating, exporting frames, converting, doing all kinds of processing from a portable, award-winning screen capture utility. Leveraging FFmpeg, one of the huge things, batch processing. So with FFmpeg Convert, you can drop a whole folder of files in there, perform multiple actions. I can say I want uncompressed AVI and I want a compressed MP4. And I also want to extract all old frames or so on. So you can do multiple actions, but maybe even more importantly, save log. Once you've run the process and it's completed, you'll see a save log button down here that allows you to save the entire log that details everything for you about that particular process that you just performed, the media files, the versions of Omnivore, of FFmpeg, etc. So definitely check out the latest Omnivore release. Other product updates, ClearID 3.5 was released at the end of October to support the new Photoshop version 20. If you have upgraded to the latest and greatest Photoshop, ClearID 3.5 is ready for you when you are. dTective 8.1, free to anyone in support since February 2019. If you hadn't updated to 8.1, huge performance improvements in developers. So whether you're using developer from an interrogative, I'm just going to link to something, throw developer on it to see how frame averaging would look, takes you less than 30 seconds, don't have to go through multiple steps, a great investigative tool and with huge improvements in performance. Spotlight Redact, you probably know, now has 4 targets in one plugin. Adobe platform, we still have our beta release we put out this summer, our 3rd version of the dTective for Premiere Pro and After Effects beta. So if you're a current dTective user, be sure to check that out. And then I mentioned some of the products coming. I did not mention QuickDME 4.0 with QuickView LT. That one will be coming in first quarter of 2021 as well, with some more time-saving features, like the ability to quickly and easily preview files, send files to Omnivore, ingest into QuickDME, process with QuickDME, etc. So how'd I do, Charles, time-wise?
I think you did amazing, and I learned a lot.
Awesome. Oh,
Which is
that alone makes
sitting here watching this, and I obviously don't have all the time to get into Avid as much as I'd like to, and I'd like the batch editing. And there's actually a question about the batch editing. Maybe when you can look over at the Q&A part of that. While you're looking at the Q&As and getting caught up, I just want to thank everybody for joining us. One thing Larry had mentioned, if folks didn't quite understand what he was talking about with the QuickView LT, is that we have a viewer that is going to be a right click away from Windows Explorer that is driven by FFmpeg's engine, much like the processing FFmpeg Convert is in the Omnivore drive now. So it's going to be really nice to have something that's a standard that is going to be able to play your files, and then it's actually compatible with your Omnivore processing. So anytime you don't have your Omnivore drive in your system, you're just browsing around, you want to see a piece of media, you right click, you send it into QuickView LT. We have some metadata and packet information and stuff in the interface. And then you want to export it to an AVI, MOV, MP4, plug in your Omnivore drive, click the send to Omnivore processing, and you can process the file right from there. So that's gonna be a really nice new tool.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm loving it. The version I have installed on this system isn't the latest alpha build, so I didn't really want to show much of it. Sorry about that, folks. I hadn't intended to show it, but yeah, it's very handy because I can just quickly right-click, preview, send to Omnivore, FFmpeg Convert, so on and so forth, and interrogate. So I think you're going to find that very interesting as well. A few things I wanted to point out as far as resources and on the web. I see a question about, can we make a step-by-step instruction guide for converting to Media Composer 2020? I will be posting more in our FAQs about the migration. I may even share the slides from this presentation. I'm not sure. I have to evaluate that afterwards. But essentially, if you didn't know, our support page and knowledge base has an extensive amount of information, frequently asked questions, and we're growing that at a much faster pace these days, as well as our YouTube channel. So I definitely recommend checking out our YouTube channel, because we're starting to throw more videos up there more frequently with tips and tricks on all of our solutions, including Avid Media Composer, saving time using link and transcode, alt drag and drop, playback rates, things of that nature. So our YouTube channel, a big resource, our knowledge base, under every product. So when you visit a product on our site, our store site, you see general information and pictures up top. If you scroll down, you'll see tabs with the description, news, videos, and various other tabs, including FAQs. And this is the knowledge base articles. So on Media Composer, you have a list of some of the most frequently asked questions in regards to Media Composer, and can get to the full FAQ knowledge base as well. So lots and lots of resources. Of course, if you are a customer, we encourage you to be on our customer email listserv, and you can get to that through the site as well. So over on the right-hand side, you'll see a little customer listserv. Join our listserv. That is the place where we put out information first. So I would encourage you to check that out and sign up for that. And then, of course, Twitter and YouTube. Now, don't forget Avid. Avid Learn and Support has been an amazing thing for me. I've leveraged it extensively, especially throughout this last 18 months with the 2019 introduction, the 2020 introduction, and they have been on a hot and heavy webinar schedule as well, with a lot of great speakers and information there. So be sure to check out Avid Learn and Support. We provide links on our main support page to those resources as well, down under Avid Learn and Support. So with that said, that is about all I had for this webinar. I greatly appreciate everybody joining us today. Charles, anything else? Any other questions?
Did we want to look at the questions, or are we just going to follow up, email them?
I can't see them, all of them on my screen. I see one question: can you make a step-by-step guide? And that was what I was trying to address, and I apologize for getting a little off topic. But that question is not a step-by-step that'll apply to everyone. It's pretty straightforward when it comes to the actual installation of the software. As long as you have your hardware covered and you meet the hardware requirements, minimum requirements. The uninstallation is simply go to Windows Add Remove. So, just type in Add Remove and go to Add Remove Programs, uninstall your application through Add Remove Programs, and then you're going to install the installer running it as administrator with administrative privileges. Only needs to be done once, because after that, you'll be able to go to Avid Link and just do your updates straight from Avid Link, which is really, really sweet and super convenient. So making a step-by-step guide is going to be difficult, but we'll continue to push resources out there and try and provide some sort of guide along that. I would definitely recommend checking out Avid's site as well. But for more specifics, feel free to reach out.
So there was a question here, and I think it's pretty straightforward. It says, when you uninstall the old version first, do the Avid projects remain on your system, or do you need to back those up first? And my response was, typically removing a host program doesn't remove projects. They go into various different places depending on where you've stored them. They can be in your user docs folder, they could be in your shared folder, but I don't know of programs that removes your data when you remove the program. So if you could just tell me I'm lying or telling the truth, that'd be great.
Yeah, no, I was reading another question. So no, projects and media aren't touched during the installation process. The only concern is what I tried to point out earlier. If you leverage QuickTime AMA a lot, you just want to make sure that you have a way to still access those projects and that media without having to go through and manually relink that stuff. So, there's several ways to do that. One, go ahead and transcode that stuff in your projects and wrap it up so that you're not leveraging AMA. Once it's in there, you can transcode, and that media is managed. That's the strength of Avid that a lot of people have overlooked. That managed media, and editing in a spatially compressed, industry-leading, file formats and things of that nature. That media management capability is huge. So
Yeah,
string,
it's
I was
go
just
ahead.
looking at another one, string substitution in bulk edit.
I was just going to add into
Yeah.
that Avid linking AMA stuff. Now it's been a second since I did this, but even in the origins of Avid AMA, I can remember going in and linking a file, just dragging it, right from wherever it was into a bin. I think you hold Control or Alt or something. I drug it in, and I started working on it. And I was curious, and I was trying to figure out whether I could break it or not, knowing how Avid does so well with its data management, like Larry was just saying. So I went in and renamed the file natively on the drive, and Avid didn't care. It still knew where it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Avid is very, very good at managing that media, and they did make a minor change in regards to defaults, but still leverage the same, folder locations and stuff at the root of the drive. The Avid media files and the MXF and one folders. Lots of changes in the capabilities of the interface, but once you get past the tabbed interface and understanding, hold the Alt key to drop tabs, understanding that panels can be docked or undocked. It's really, really a quick migration. I mean, I kind of avoided it at first, but it took me only a day before I was like, oh wow, now I see why they did this. Similar to Windows 8 and Windows 10, I'm one of those people who I don't like my cheese moved either, but I was a big fan of Windows 8 and Windows 10 because I saw the efficiency improvements right away. So making a change that's going to save me a lot of time, I'm fine with. Um, I might have to spend a little time to invest upfront, but I'm going to save that tenfold, down the road. So.
And then I just wanted to address our training options. We've
Yes.
got remote one-on-one training options that you can do anywhere from just a generic, I want to get caught up, spend some time one-on-one, screen sharing, going over all the features of whatever product it is, and not get caught slowed down doing exercises and stuff like that. We can do something like that for you. You can do more formal classes that Larry does where
I lost you. Yes, we can do more formal classes. I'm not sure if I lost you, Charles. So yeah, we have customizable training. We have our own, live online modules. So if you go there, you'll see we have some canned modules that cover the basics of leveraging our products. If you just need an update, want to spend time with an instructor, that's what Charles is speaking to. If you want to review your workflows and look at how can I save time, or I'm getting ready to pull a trigger on some major equipment, or maybe even a 2020 upgrade, maybe now's the time to look at those workflows and how you can leverage saving even more time in that one process. In regards to training as well, I also wanted to mention under the events tab, I have, in addition to the Avid and Adobe videos and training resources that we provide both in support and on the product pages, you'll note Avid certification. So Avid has training, MC 101 and MC 110. The 101 course is a 2-day class, 110 a 3-day class, and those are available remotely, and you can get certified as an Avid certified user leveraging those options. So make sure you check that out as well. With that said, and seeing that Charles has left me, just thank you very much, everybody, for taking the time to join us today, and look for more videos and information on the latest and greatest with Media Composer on our website and our YouTube channel. Thanks so much, and have a great day.